I thank the representative of the Republic of Korea for his statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I thank you for convening this emergency meeting of the Security Council. The gravity of the situation in the Middle East demands the Council's immediate attention as it discharges its primary responsibility to maintain international peace and security. I thank His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, for his introductory statement. And I also thank Assistant Secretary General Miroslav Janka and Director General Rafael Grossi of the IAEA for their timely and important briefings. Sierra Leone aligns with the Secretary General's call for immediate de-escalation to avert, and I quote, catastrophic consequences for civilians, the region, and the world, end of quote. While guided by our earlier interventions at meetings held on the 13th and 20th June on this situation, the alarming developments compel this Council to act with urgency. We are concerned to note that less than 24 hours ago, the United States of America struck nuclear facilities at Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Earlier that day, the State of Israel launched further strikes on the Isfahan complex. Iran also responded with missile launches at Israel. We take note of Director General Grossi's briefing on the off-site radiation in the nuclear facilities hit by the strikes. The event, however, heightened the risk of radiological disaster and increased civilian suffering. Sierra Leone is deeply concerned by these military strikes, particularly as they target nuclear installations and densely populated areas in Iran and Israel. Even as we recognize the complexities of the regional security environment, these developments call for renewed commitment to the principles of the UN Charter and international law. The use of force is among the most serious matters before this Council. Article 2.4 of the Charter obliges all member states to refrain, and I quote, from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, end of quote. In this instance, we note with concern that the strikes were conducted without Council authorization, nor was there a clear invocation of the right of self-defense under Article 51 in response to or an imminent armed attack. As we approach the 80th anniversary of the Charter, born of a collective resolve to, and I quote, save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, end of quote, we are witnessing actions that undermine its promise. These attacks starkly contrast the spirit of collective security envisioned in San Francisco. We underscore that collective security remains the bedrock of the rules-based international order and calls for strict and consistent adherence to the UN Charter. Madam President, the targeting of nuclear facilities heighten our concerns. International humanitarian law requires particular caution regarding such sites due to the potential for grave humanitarian and environmental harm. The IAEA has repeatedly affirmed that attacks or threats against nuclear facilities devoted to peaceful purposes violates the Charter, the IAEA statute, and international law. We therefore stress the critical importance of upholding the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the cornerstone of the global non-proliferation and disarmament architecture. The NPT prevents nuclear weapons proliferation and provides a framework for addressing concerns related to peaceful nuclear energy. Actions outside this framework risk undermining the treaty's authority and effectiveness. We urge all parties to utilize the NPT mechanisms, including through the IAEA, to address legitimate concerns and avoid measures that weaken this vital instrument of international peace and security. Madam President, we have taken note of Iran's recent letter of 21st June 2025, Israel's communication citing self-defense, and a joint letter from France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. These underline the mounting claims and counterclaims, reinforcing this Council's duty to uphold the Charter. In this regard, Sierra Leone therefore advances the following point. First, we call for an immediate comprehensive ceasefire. Continued hostilities risk igniting a wider regional conflict, destabilizing maritime routes, and uncertain fragile energy markets. There is no military solution. We urge all parties to engage in diplomatic talks and resume structured dialogue towards restoring Resolution 2231 and a joint comprehensive plan of action before remaining measures expire on 18th June 2025. The potential broader consequences of an escalating conflict must not be overlooked. Disruption of key shipping lanes could severely affect small and developing economies, particularly those still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic and grappling with debt distress. Such disruptions risk inflaming our human and common insecurities, economic distress, disaffection among youth, irregular migration, and fragile social cohesion far beyond the region. Second, we demand strict protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure. We have already been briefed by ASG Yencha on the civilian casualties in Iran as well as in Israel since 13th June. Hospitals, power stations, and homes have suffered damage. We call for safe corridors for medical evacuation and humanitarian relief in line with international law. Third, we emphasize that the NPT remains central to global security. We urge Iran to continue full cooperation with the IAEA and resolve outstanding safeguard issues. We equally urge restraint by all states to protect the integrity of the NPT. Fourth and lastly, we support full IAEA verification, transparent use of the procurement channel, and provisional application of the additional protocol as confidence-building measures essential to regional stability. In closing, Madam President, we must recall that immense power brings immense responsibility. States, including those entrusted with great power by the UN Charter, have a duty to act in ways that uphold peace, security, and a rules-based order. Setting aside the Charter's principle risk weakening the safeguards that protect us all and may embolden unilateral actions elsewhere. At this difficult moment, Sierra Leone appeals for de-escalation, restraint, and the pursuit of diplomacy. Let us remember that behind geopolitical decisions are the lives of ordinary people, men, women, and children, who look to this Council to safeguard their peace, security, and dignity. We hope that our actions will honor that trust and the promise of San Francisco. I thank you.
The representative of Sierra Leone for his statement, and I give the floor now to the representative